chosen one, pause for a moment. Because a very gentle prompting has just kept you from leaving too quickly. As though something deep within you recognizes that you need to hear this. I do not want you to become alarmed or believe that some power is taking away your freedom of choice, because you always have the right to decide what you receive. Yet amid the hurried sounds of life, there are moments when you naturally slow down. Your breathing deepens and your mind suddenly becomes still. Perhaps you feel a little warmth in your chest, an emotion you cannot name, or an unexpected wave of tenderness whose cause you do not understand. Do not rush to call it a bad sign, and do not allow fear to interpret it for you. It may simply be the truest part of you awakening, reminding you that it has been far too long since you truly sat still and listened to what you have been carrying. I am Michael, and my words have not come to create a mysterious display that makes you dependent, but to lead you back to the clarity that has already been present within you. I know you have passed through many days, appearing normal on the outside, while carrying countless unanswered questions deep within. You have wondered whether your private prayers were heard, whether the tears you shed at night had any meaning, and whether anyone understood what it felt like to keep being strong when you no longer knew what was supporting you. I want you to know that your pain has not been invisible, your exhaustion has not been dismissed, and every time you preserved kindness despite being wounded carried a value that people did not always recognize. You are not loved because you are perfect, nor because you have never made mistakes. You are supported because even when you lose your way, there remains within you a desire to return to what is true, peaceful, and good. There were seasons when you sat alone in darkness. Not the darkness of a room, but the confusion of not knowing which direction your next step should take. You waited for a great sign, a clear voice, or an event powerful enough to assure you that you would not choose wrongly. Yet guidance rarely comes in a way that removes your ability to reason. It often appears as a quiet reminder, a gentle recognition, or a subtle peace that arises when you consider what is right. I do not want you to surrender your future to any message merely because it moves your emotions for a few minutes. I want you to listen, and then test it with wisdom. What is true will not ask you to abandon reason, nor will it drive you into panic. It will help you become calmer, more honest, and more responsible for the road you choose. Therefore, breathe in slowly, and release the tension you have carried for such a long time. Feel your feet where they are. Remember that your hands can still make choices, and recognize that your heart has continued persevering despite many trials. This moment does not need to be magnified into an event that determines your entire destiny. It only needs to become a pause deep enough for you to recognize that you have lived too quickly, cared for too many people while neglecting yourself, or listened to so many voices outside you that you can no longer distinguish what truly agrees with your values. What changes you today may not be a magnificent promise, but the courage to face something you have avoided and meet it with gentleness. There is a door within you that has been closed for a long time. Perhaps it was locked by betrayal, by a rejection that caused you to question your worth, or by a failure you still use as evidence that you are not capable enough. You believed that sealing that place would protect you from further pain, but together with the pain, you also trapped your joy, trust, and ability to receive something new. The key you are waiting for is not an outside miracle. It begins with the decision to stop punishing yourself for what has passed. I am not asking you to forget, nor am I telling you to open your heart to everyone. I only want you to stop allowing old experiences to control the way you see yourself. You are allowed to be careful without becoming closed, and you are allowed to remember the lesson without living forever inside the wound. What I want to tell you today is that you still have time to begin again. One wrong decision cannot erase all your worth. One broken relationship does not prove that you are unworthy of love. One season of delay does not mean you have been left behind. You may have taken detours, lost your direction, or placed your trust in the wrong hands. But all these experiences have also taught you to recognize sincerity, boundaries, and self-respect more deeply. Do not look at the past only through the question of what you lost. Look at where you became wiser, what precious things you learned to protect, and how you learned to stand again. Growth is not always glorious. Sometimes it is simply the day you no longer return to the place that once broke you. I also want you to understand that no truthful spiritual message needs to hold you captive by making you afraid of missing out. Love does not threaten that everything good will disappear the moment you leave. What is meant for healing will respect your freedom, give you time to reflect, and help you live more steadily after you have listened. Therefore, you do not need to remain because of fear. Remain only if these words are helping you become more peaceful and sincere. If something you read makes you feel pressured, burdened, or guilty, you have the right to stop. But if you recognize even a small light being kindled within you, preserve it not through passing emotion, but through one specific action in your life. Today, choose one small thing that can begin unlocking what is closed within you. Perhaps you need to write down something you have never dared to admit. Call someone safe. Complete a task you have postponed, or allow yourself to rest without condemnation. Perhaps you need to stop following a place that continually causes comparison. Stop seeking approval from someone who does not value you, or begin again with a habit that once gave you peace. Do not wait until you feel completely ready. Readiness is often formed after you take the first step. One small act performed with awareness can open the way for changes far deeper than great declarations that are never accompanied by choices. If these words have comforted you or helped you recognize something that needs to change, you may share them with someone who needs encouragement. When you receive something good, the most beautiful response does not necessarily involve money. It begins with living more kindly, listening more deeply, and becoming a safe place for others. If you choose to support the work of the person who created this content, do so entirely of your own free will, within your means, and never with the belief that you must give money in exchange for protection or blessing. Generosity is not a transaction with heaven. No one has the right to use your faith to pressure you, promise supernatural rewards, or make you feel guilty if you do not contribute. A sincere word of gratitude, a timely act of sharing, or a kind deed offered to another person can also be a meaningful response. My child, the most precious thing about this moment is not how long you remained, but what you carry with you when you leave. I want you to continue with lighter breathing, clearer eyes, and faith that the door once closed is not forever impossible to open. You do not need anyone to stand between you and heaven in order to prove that your prayers have been heard. Nor do you need to purchase the attention, love, or protection of the Most High. Live uprightly, care for yourself, preserve kindness, and learn to choose what produces lasting peace. I am beside you as a reminder of courage, not as a voice that makes you dependent. Keep what makes you stronger, release what makes you afraid, and continue in freedom. The moment you have been waiting for may be the moment you realize that the key was never far away. It has always been in your hand, waiting for you to become gentle enough to forgive the past and courageous enough to open a new path. Continue listening, because what I want to say to you is not yet finished. And what is being opened in this moment may help you understand again. All the years you once thought had been forgotten, last night, as you fell asleep, and every sound around you slowly became quiet, I stood at the boundary between what you have endured and what you are about to enter. I did not look at you with condemnation, nor did I repeat your mistakes to make your heart heavier. I looked upon you with the tenderness given to a child who has tried for so long without realizing how deeply exhausted they have become. I saw every night you turned toward the darkness to hide your tears. Every morning you adjusted your smile before facing the world. And every time you said you were fine, only because you did not want anyone to worry. You became so skilled at hiding your pain that many people believed you had never been broken. But I never mistook your silence for peace. I saw the prayers you whispered so softly that only you could hear them before believing they had disappeared into emptiness. At times you asked for a sign, but when nothing happened immediately, you began to think no one was listening. At times you asked why you had to endure for so long, why those who wounded you appeared peaceful while you had to gather the pieces of yourself alone. I know those questions did not arise from rebellion, but from a heart that was exhausted, and simply wanted to know that its suffering had meaning. Beloved child, not one of your sighs has been forgotten. Not one sleepless night has been wasted, and not one sincere plea has been dismissed. The silence you once felt was not absence. It was a time when many things were being arranged beyond what you were able to see. During those months and years, I tried to reach you in very gentle ways. Perhaps it was a song that unexpectedly played at the exact moment you needed comfort, causing your steps to slow for a few seconds. Perhaps it was something spoken by a stranger that touched precisely what you had hidden. Perhaps it was an image, a number, a vivid dream, or a sudden peace you could not explain. These things were not given so that you would live superstitiously or chase every outward sign. They were only soft knocks upon the door of your awareness, reminders that you were never alone, and that guidance continued walking beside you. Part of you recognized it, but then responsibility, anxiety, work, and the noise of the world carried you away again. You returned to your old rhythm, continued being strong, continued enduring, and continued postponing the act of listening to yourself. Today is different. Today you have remained still long enough to recognize that you cannot continue living only through endurance. You stayed with the silence instead of immediately running from it. That small choice opened a space you had previously kept closed. I do not need you to perform something extraordinary in order to be heard. I only need you to become honest. When you stop pretending that you are not hurting, healing can begin. When you stop saying that everything is unimportant, you can finally recognize what must be addressed. When you dare to admit that you are tired, you do not become weak. You stop wasting strength, maintaining an image that no longer serves you. In the moment you are willing to stop, my voice can become clearer in the place that has been covered by noise for far too long. I, Michael, want you to hear this calmly. Not every delay you experienced was a rejection. Some doors closed, because the place behind them was not safe enough for the goodness within you. Some plans were interrupted because entering too early would have required you to pay too great a price to preserve them. Some people left because they were meant only for a short part of your journey, even though you believed they would remain forever. You often viewed these events only from the side of loss, and therefore felt that something had been taken from you. But I viewed them from the side of protection, and saw how you were drawn away from many things that could have wounded you more deeply. Not everything you desired was worthy of your peace, and not every beautiful door led to the place where you belonged. Delay is sometimes mercy wearing a form you cannot yet recognize. The times when you felt overlooked also taught you something important. Your worth is not determined by who chooses you or who turns away. If every door had opened too early, you might have spent your whole life chasing recognition and calling it success. If every prayer had been answered exactly as you desired, you might never have learned the discernment required to protect your future. The years of waiting deepened your ability to understand people, recognize motives, and distinguish true peace. They taught you not to surrender, trust too quickly to great promises, not to abandon yourself in order to preserve a relationship, and not to exchange integrity for entrance into an impressive room. You thought you were merely surviving difficulty, but you were being prepared not to lose yourself when life began to change, therefore. The enlightenment I want to give you is not a secret that makes you superior to others. It is the ability to look at the past without cursing it, to look at the present without running away, and to look toward the future without allowing fear to take control. You do not need to explain every event with a mysterious reason. Sometimes the truth is simple. You have grown, you have learned enough, and you no longer fit the old patterns. What once kept you trapped is gradually losing its power because you no longer respond as you once did. You no longer hurry back simply because you are lonely. You no longer beg someone to recognize your value. You no longer blame yourself for responsibilities that were never yours. This is the true door opening before you, the door to a life guided by clarity instead of panic. You also need to understand that my patience with you does not mean that you failed too many times. That patience is love that did not leave when you were not ready. Some lessons needed to be repeated because old wounds made it difficult for you to believe in goodness. Some boundaries had to be practiced again and again because you were once taught that love meant enduring everything. Some steps had to be taken slowly because you needed to rebuild trust in yourself. I never forced you through fear. I remained near, waiting for the moment when you would stop resisting what you had known for a long time. Today that recognition is becoming clear. You do not need to continue carrying a life that exhausts you merely because it is familiar. From now on, pay attention to what brings clarity, order, and deep peace. Do not chase every strong emotion and call it guidance. Test everything by its results. Whatever helps you become more honest, responsible, gentle, and at the same time more steadfast is worthy of your attention. Whatever requires you to lie, diminish yourself, live in fear, or continually surrender your dignity requires you to have the courage to step back. I will not lead you to a place where you must betray good values in order to be accepted. The right road may be difficult, but it will not make you increasingly unfamiliar to yourself. Therefore, beloved child, look upon the doors that closed as markers that led you toward today's understanding. See the seasons of delay as the time when your roots grew deep before your branches could rise. Stop regretting that you did not arrive somewhere earlier, because the person you were then may not have been strong enough to preserve what the person you are now is ready to receive. I have not come to make you live forever among signs, but to bring you back to awareness. I do not want you to depend upon outward things to know that you are loved. I want you to build peace within, so that whether tomorrow brings joyful news or another lesson, you will not lose your direction. Now that you have stopped, truly listen. Do not listen with panic that you may miss something, but with trust that what is right will be recognized when you become quiet enough. What happened was not meant to imprison you in the past, but to bring you to the ability to choose differently. The people who left, the delays, and the rejections that once hurt you, all contributed to this clarity. I remain here, neither judging nor forcing you, but gently reminding you that you no longer need to live as someone who has been forgotten. Move forward with courage refined in silence, because beginning today, you can live not merely to endure, but to heal, grow, and build a new journey through wiser choices. Whenever God places a warning within a particular moment, understand that movement has already begun, even if what your eyes can see has not yet revealed what is being arranged behind the scenes. I am Michael, and I want you to remember this with a calm heart. God does not speak empty words, nor does he create urgency merely to confuse you. When a reminder arrives with unusual weight, you are being invited to stop, examine your direction, and prepare to cross a new boundary. Divine warnings are not meant to drive you into fear, but to place you in the right position before circumstances change. What the world calls unexpected has often been seen by heaven for a long time, and mercy always seeks to speak before the old road closes. You often want to see proof before believing that change is approaching. You want the sky to change color, the earth to tremble, or an unmistakable sign to appear before your eyes. Yet God often speaks while everything outwardly remains completely ordinary, because preparation has meaning only when it begins, before the event becomes visible. When Noah received instruction, the days continued in their familiar rhythm. People still worked, laughed, made plans, and believed that tomorrow would resemble yesterday. His work appeared strange in a world that could not recognize danger. Yet that quiet obedience became a place of preservation when the transition arrived. What seems unreasonable in one season may become saving wisdom in the next. Through that image, I want to teach you not to judge a reminder solely by the response of the crowd. Truth does not lose value because many people mock it, and a right path does not become wrong simply because you must walk almost alone. There are times when others will not understand your preparation. They may say that you are overly careful, too sensitive, or wasting strength on something that has not happened. You do not need to argue in order to prove that you are wiser. Humbly do what must be done. Put your life in order, repair what remains confused, and strengthen what is vulnerable. A warning becomes beneficial only when it leads to wise choices, not when it becomes an opportunity to display yourself as someone who knows the future. There was also once a city still filled with light, footsteps, and ordinary activity when the urgent command to leave was given. Not everyone recognized that a limit was drawing near because outward normality often convinces people that everything will continue forever. Lot was warned to leave, not because judgment had already fallen upon him, but because the way of escape was still open. See the kindness within that. God not only reveals what must be avoided, He also shows the direction in which you should go. A true warning always comes with a path of preservation. When you hear only danger and cannot see the way forward, panic easily takes control. But when you recognize that guidance has been given beforehand, your heart can remain steady and act wisely. Many times throughout history, warnings came before weeping, before collapse, and before systems could no longer preserve their outward appearance. Egypt received opportunities to recognize and change before the night of sorrow. The disciples were also prepared before structures that seemed immovable were swept into upheaval. This reveals an unchanging order. God often speaks before transition becomes undeniable. He calls you to awaken while you still have time to pray, correct, release, and choose again. Do not wait until every door closes before seeking wisdom. Delayed obedience may still hold value, but timely obedience can preserve you from much unnecessary suffering, beloved child. I know that some warnings make your heart grow heavy. You fear they are signs that God is angry or preparing to take away something you love. But change the way you see them. The fact that He speaks is evidence that He is still near, still caring, and has not allowed you to walk alone into what you do not understand. Indifference remains silent. Love warns, guides, and patiently repeats itself. A father who sees his child approaching the edge of a cliff will not remain silent in order to appear gentle. He will call loudly because he wants to hold the child back. The volume of the call does not diminish love. It reveals that danger is near and that the person being called is infinitely precious. Therefore, when a reminder continually returns within you, do not dismiss it quickly, but do not turn it into an obsession either. Bring it into stillness, examine your motives, observe the circumstances, and seek clarity. Guidance from God will not push you into endless confusion. It may make you serious, but it will also give you a specific step. Perhaps you need to end a habit that weakens you. Perhaps you need to leave an environment that continually erodes your peace. Perhaps you need to apologize, correct a decision, manage your finances more carefully, or stop postponing an important responsibility. Do not ask only what is about to happen. Ask what kind of person you need to become before it happens. I also want you to understand that not every movement means destruction. Some systems fail because they no longer fit what is beginning to form. Some relationships close because their role in your journey has been completed. Some doors shut so that you will stop placing your future inside a space too small for you. When God warns you, He may be preparing you not only to avoid loss, but also to receive greater responsibility. Transition often makes you uncomfortable because it disrupts what is familiar, but familiarity is not the same as safety, and stability does not always mean that you are walking in the right direction. Some anchors must be lifted so that the ship will not remain trapped when a new current begins to flow. Therefore, do not pray for everything to remain unchanged merely so that you will not have to change. Pray for eyes that recognize when to remain, when to move, and when to prepare in silence. A warning is mercy sent before the moment. When your choices become more limited, it gives you room to reorder priorities, heal conflicts, and remove what is draining your strength. When you respond with obedience, you do not need to run in panic. You can move through small but steady steps, because what keeps you safe is not your ability to predict every event correctly, but your nearness to the guiding voice and your willingness to adjust when reminded. If God is still speaking to you, it means he has not released you. If he is still stirring your conscience, it is because he desires to lead you back into order. If something keeps returning and will not allow you to continue living carelessly, it may be mercy knocking upon a door you have kept closed for too long. Do not wait until the knocking becomes collapse before you open. Respond while the call is still gentle, while you still have time to change without paying the price of deeper wounds. God's presence does not only comfort you after the storm, he also comes before the wind to teach you how to strengthen the roof. I remind you today, not so that you will view the future with fear, but so that you will enter it prepared. What is about to change does not need to steal your peace if you have learned to build upon truth, discipline, and trust. Keep your heart tender, but your eyes awake. Love, but do not ignore boundaries. Hope, but do not live irresponsibly. When a warning comes, do not ask only whether it is frightening. Recognize the love hidden behind the call. God speaks because you are still being preserved, still being guided, and still have the opportunity to stand in the right position before visible reality catches up with what has already begun to move. I am beside you in that preparation, not allowing you to walk in panic, but guiding you with enough light for each step until you pass through the transition with a heart that is steady, mature, and at peace.